Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I'm a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher, and I share my creative process here with you live online. If you enjoy this channel, I'd like to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, be able to read my comic books for free, get tons of behind-the-scenes features, you can become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/GERIMI. It's patreon.com/Jeremy. You can also become a member of join our Discord server. We have a thriving community of artists where we have conversations, share artwork, encourage each other. Tons of great stuff to enjoy on there. If you'd like to hear from me once a month, get a free digital sketchbook, get work in progress animated GIFs, news of when I have new books or artwork to release, you can become a patron. You can become a newsletter subscriber. Sign up for my monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase some of my books, if you read digitally or physical copies, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. I'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, a standalone psychological thriller called Eye of the Gods. It's about a man who is cursed with visions he cannot control. You can pick up my current series, Morning Star, which is Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. This book, it's an 8-issue series. This book is volume 1, contains issues 1 through 4, plus bonus features. And guess what, guys? There is a link in the description of this video. I'm actually going to grab the link and put it in the chat for the video as well. But volume 2 is now available not just in digital, but in print. The copy I've got here is a proof copy, so it has a little not for resale label on it. The actual version does not have that. You can order it right now. The series is complete. Volume 2 is now available both in print and digital. I know I've been hounding about this for ages. We're going back and forth about my formatting issues. It's up, it's ready, it's live. You guys can get it right now. So go check that out, please. And for those who I've met at conventions over the years and we're purchasing original copies of the single issues, there's still final copies of issue 8 available to order directly from my website, jeremy.net. I've got very few issues of issue 5 yet left, few issues of 6 and 7, and then issue 8 as well. So that is all of the stuff. So yeah, guys, volume 2, finally available. Thank you for your patience. I'm gonna get that link on the description. I'm gonna get that link in the chat real quick. And before we get into everything, I just want to give a heartfelt shout out to a member of our community, Amaris. She's not going to be making it to the chat, to the live stream today, but because she recently had a friend that passed. And I just want to give my condolences and say that I'm sorry to hear it. I know that you've had a very rough past year or two, and a lot of ups and downs, and it always hurts to lose a loved one. So thinking about you, I'm sorry. We're going to miss you. Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, your friends, your family, your friends' family. I'm sorry to hear that. So, all right, guys, let me grab that link. You would think I would be more prepared, but I was up late last night watching Shang-Chi on Disney Plus, and it was awesome. And it was worth staying up till 2 in the morning to finish that. And that is why I am tired and loopy and just got up. But let me find that link. And meanwhile, I see folks are already funneling in to the chat. I see Cassiel has yet again edited his name and says Cassie Da Vinci. I like that. That's very, very classy. Very classy. Dr. Thomas Elliott's in the chat. Negro Frazetta's in the chat. Yadi's in there too. All right, nice to see you. Dr. Thomas Elliott said, "What's the link to the Discord?" The link to the Discord is specifically for Patreon subscribers. So when you sign up for Patreon, you get it sends you a link. And if for some reason, if you become a Patreon member and you haven't received your link, just direct message me through Patreon, and I'll copy an invite link directly to you and send you a personal invite. So you should get it automatically when you subscribe to Patreon. If you haven't gotten it, or if you do subscribe and you don't get it, just message me on Patreon. I'll make sure you get it. Let's see here. Negro Frazetta says, "I'm drawing birds today. What are y'all drawing?" You know what's funny? I'm not drawing birds. but I'm drawing dragons. Hang on, let me adjust my camera here. So I am back to working on. Let me switch to the desktop screen here. So I am back to working on this piece that I was doing. The long story of this is that 5 years ago I started a painting for my wife as an anniversary present. We passed our 5-year anniversary. The painting still wasn't done. We talked about some color changes to it because my palette tends to be pretty dark and moody, and she actually wants something that brightened up the room a little bit. So I'm reworking the color scheme of the piece, and as soon as I was doing that, I thought might as well adjust the composition a little bit. There were some things I still wasn't happy with, so I'm going through and I'm doing stuff I didn't do before. I did a bunch of color studies. I never did any value studies, so I thought let me do some value studies on toned paper. That's what we're working on today. But let's see here. Let me get that link for Morningstar Volume 2. Volume 2, paperback. All right, so I'm going to put the link to the paperback in the chat here. It's so like I said, it's all for people that are watching later. It's also going to be in the description of the video. But for the folks live, this link will take you to the paperback page, but you can also get the Kindle version from there too. All right, there we go. So let's see here. Cassiel says, well, these lives are very interesting, talking about the algorithm and politics on YouTube, industry of art, how to be an artist, how to learn stuff and techniques about it. Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of stuff going on. And yes, everyone else in the chat shares their condolences for Amaris as well. And you know what? I appreciate the love that you guys have for each other. Let's see. Cassiel says, always being the guy that doesn't know about this stuff and learning about this stuff. Well, I'll tell you this. When you stop learning, that's when you stop living. I mean, I hope to be like an old ass man and still be discovering something like, oh my God, this is amazing. How did I not know this? Curiosity, I think, is one of the big fuels for the engine of an artist. Curiosity feeds creativity. And I think actually that's an interesting idea for people who sometimes have creative blocks or are struggling. I think that maybe it's worthwhile to say, well, am I actually curious about the thing I'm struggling with? Because sometimes trying to find a way to inject things you are curious about into the things that you're having trouble with, believe it or not, I think that's a very good method for just shifting. A slight shift can really turbocharge your energy and get you focused again. I'm also trying to figure out why on my camera here, I've got a very small ring light attached to it. And what's frustrating, I was trying to say, why isn't this thing turning on? Because I thought I had it plugged in. It's because I don't have it plugged in. Super genius over here. Trying to unwind this. So many cables on my desktop. Got more cables than Rob Liefeld over here. All right. All right, there we go. Main thing with the ring light is that I wanted it to hide the shadow that the camera itself was casting. And now I've got this eerie glow under my chin. So let's see here. And actually, I do need to adjust this a little bit. I'm still trying to find a way to set this up so that it's not directly in my face while I'm drawing. So I can kind of see what I'm doing around the camera. And it's challenging because it is kind of directly in the way, which is the price of having a camera aimed at what you're drawing. All right, let me scroll down the chat real quick. And Yadi's guys' initials in here, NMN. I don't know if you want me to just refer to you as NMN or if you just want me to go to NM, or if you want me to keep calling you Yadi. You let me know how you want me to refer to you or address you on the live streams. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, cool. NM's working on sci-fi armor designs. Let's see here. Hey, and you know what? That's very kind. Dr. Thomas Elliott says, I've been looking forward to this stream. Thank you. I actually really appreciate that. It's nice to have people looking forward to you. Let's see here. Cassiel says, seeing there's professional artists here and people that like art wants to learn more. Amar is in the chat. Amar. What's up? How you doing, man? Guy says, all of you are welcome here. It says, these lives are overrated. I think that these lives go by quick, and we got to get all the joy that we can. Little musical chat serenade from Amar. Let's see here. All right, guys. So I guess starting here with this dragon, that's what I'm at right now. I'm using a little white pencil, a little bit of chalk. Although first, I need to sharpen this guy. It's a little bit dull. Me showing up to the live stream. My links ain't ready. Tools not sharp. But I've got volume 2 out in print. One of the things I've been thinking about doing is sitting down and posting a video with no audio and just doing a flip through of both volume 1 and volume 2 of Morningstar. Just sit the book down, flip through it, not necessarily give you like a page by page description, because that would take forever to flip through an entire graphic novel. Let me adjust this. But just flip through and draw. Just flip through, show you guys all of the pages. Really just to give people who haven't looked at the series before a chance to check it out, because I do feel like I tried doing a webcomic for one of my projects a long time ago. Like Eye of the Gods, I ran it as a webcomic after it was already available for print. And the idea was to use each week as a chance to advertise the print copy. And unfortunately, that did not work. But I do believe that there is something real about letting people read your comics for free in order to become encouraged to check to want to hold the physical thing. Or they maybe read it for free and they want to buy a digital copy just to support the series. Or they just want to be able to read it at their convenience, not have to go to a website to look at it. So that was my thought behind that. I know a lot of times there's a lot of fear about if you give something away for free, will people actually pay money for it? And Chris Anderson had that really great book, Free, the Price of a New Digital Economy. And the idea is that the people that are never going to pay for it, we're never going to pay for it. So you're not going to get them to buy your book. If they're just like, nah, this isn't something I want to spend money on, or if there's somebody who never buys copies, they only pirate books or read stuff they can read on free, they weren't going to spend money anyway. But the people that would spend money on it, odds are they're probably going to, want to support their creator. Like, for instance, there's a comic creator named Steven Sejic. I'm horrible at pronouncing his name, but he's a Croatian artist. But he's done a lot of stuff for DC Comics. He's done a lot of stuff for Top Cow, and he has a book called Sunstone. I think I've mentioned it before. That he was just posting for free on DeviantArt, and I bought a bunch of his physical copies. But I'd been reading them for free on DeviantArt anyway. And then at a certain point, I thought I'm running out of bookshelf space, so I just signed up for his Patreon just because I want to support the fact that he's making work. But I think I think that in that case, that was me seeing that there was somebody who was making something I like, giving it away for free, and I wanted to support them so they would keep making stuff. My point being is that I thought maybe just doing a walkthrough of the books, just flipping through, might give people a chance to see it and decide for themselves if it's something that they really want to pick up or not. And the people who aren't going to pick it up, they're not going to pick it up anyway. But maybe seeing the walkthrough will make someone say, you know what? I looked at this. I've watched this video. I've watched him drawing the books. I want to have a copy of this on my bookshelf. Or I want to have it on my Kindle. Or I want an NFT. Or I want a crypto comic. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Amar is doing the mana mana. He says that's from the Muppets. Yeah, there's these creatures. This whole song goes mana mana na 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 mana mana na 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 mana mana na 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 na. Yeah, that's the Cassiel was asking what the little musical notes that Amar, not notes, but just a little musical ditty he was kind of like humming in the chat there. And Amen says, congrats on the new print. Must be an incredible feeling. Have your product out of your head and out in the real world. Yes, it actually does feel amazing. And it's one of those things where it's taken so long to get the book to this stage that it's almost kind of a not know what to do with myself. And that's one of the reasons why I'm working on this painting, because Morningstar has been an all-consuming project for a very, very long time. And my wife is incredibly supportive of my comics. She's never been cranky or mad that I haven't finished her wedding gift, even though we've been married for over 5 years now. She's been incredibly patient. And I just, I said, all right, now that the book is done, my first thing I want to do before I start another comic is I want to finish this painting for her. So I was like, all right. I started looking at it and saying, all right, well, what are the things that I really need to do that I haven't done? And the value study was kind of the big one, because in looking at it and it being too dark, I'm going to have to go in and do color studies as well. These are the things I discovered as I was going and painting over the previous version. Basically, I knocked it down with a bunch of raw umber so that it's like all browns and a lot of the detail is sort of like darkened, so I can come back and paint on top of it. But I noticed that the two things I didn't do was doing value studies. And then even though I did color studies, I did the color studies in watercolor. And then I think I did a few digitally. I didn't do color studies using the actual medium that I'm going to be painting in. So when I get the values basically where I'm happy with them, then I'm going to go through and use acrylic paint, because I'm painting it in acrylic. And I'm going to use acrylic paint to do some additional color studies. Let's see here. Yeah, Cassio, we're having a little Muppet talk in the in the chat. But Cassio mentions that he didn't actually watch the Muppets, just knew about them. Well, there's tons of Muppet stuff free to watch online. There's actually a new Muppet show that came out a few years back that was on ABC. I don't know what channel it would have been on in your country, but it's available, I think, yeah, it is available on Disney Plus. And the show did not do that well because it was basically the Muppets, but they were doing The Office. It was the TV show the original conceit of the Muppets, the old '70s show, was that it was both a variety show starring these Muppets that were like real actors, but also they showed a lot of the behind the scenes of making the show. And so they've updated that, where now when they're showing you the behind the scenes of making the show, they're doing it like The Office. And a lot of people didn't like it because they felt like it was a little bit too adult, and that it didn't have a lot of the really innocent humor of the original series. So it was not Office enough for the adults, but it wasn't kid friendly enough for people that love the original. I thought it was hilarious. So I've been going back and watching that now, and I'm one of the few people who actually really did like that version. And my wife and I have been going back and rewatching the ABC series, which I actually enjoy just as much as the original. Let's see here. Oh, this is great. NMM says to support an artist so they can create monetarily is an utmost noble. Legendary samurais would say that is a real honor. Well, thank you. Oh, and Anna Morris says she's working on a portrait for a friend for the funeral. I'm sure that it is going to come out wonderfully. And it's a really solemn occasion, but I'm glad that you have the opportunity to pay a tribute to your friend. Okay. Amar says your baby is done for now. How long did it take you? Let's see. I started Morningstar in 2012. So, I mean, well, first off, at some point, I do have to do a video where I pull out the original pages of Morningstar that I drew in 1996, I want to say, 1997. I got to go find those original pages. Coffee sip. But in terms of working on this actual iteration, I started drawing it in 2011. And then really got going in 2012, like after finishing my first book. So yeah, I guess it's been about 10 years to finish the whole series, which makes sense really, because it took me a little more than 5 years to finish Eye of the Gods, and that's one graphic novel. This book is 2 graphic novels, and it took twice as long. And part of that is I think that I am getting faster. No, let me this way. I definitely have gotten faster as an artist. But as I'm getting better, I'm slowing down because I'm catching more mistakes. So that's the interesting challenge. And I've mentioned that to you before. That whole thing, at first you get good, then you get fast, then you get good and fast. I've really been working on leveling up my skills. And that means I'm slowing down because I'm really looking at everything that I do wrong and trying to fix as many things as possible. In fact, quick shout out. My buddy Carl Altstetter got me this book, The Essential Guide to Comic Book Lettering by Nate Picos. He's the guy he's a comic book letterer. He runs the comic book foundry, Blambot, and he's got a lot of great fonts there for free as well as paid fonts. So his paid fonts are top notch. I've bought a few of them. In fact, Morningstar was lettered with a paid font by Nate Picos. Point is that I, for a long time, have continued to recommend, and I do still recommend Richard Starking's comic book lettering the Comic Craft way. But this book is brand new, and Richard Starking's gives a great overview of how to letter, and I still recommend it as an entry point for people lettering. This book is an exhaustive step-by-step. Whereas the first book is Richard Starking's book is a great guidebook. This book is more like an encyclopedia of lettering. In that, for as thorough as he can be, because there's so many different details of lettering, he sits down and it's like a collection of tutorials of all the different things you're going to need to do as a letterer. So shout out to Carl for getting that book for me, and then shout out as yet another great resource for you guys to check out as comic creators. Yeah, Amar says, yeah, that is patient. The 5.5 years to finish this. NMM says, try gouache, mayhaps. Well, it's not that I don't want to try gouache. It's that the actual painting itself is very, very large. And I'm going to use acrylics for that. So it's not that I want to do the study. I intentionally want to do the study with the exact same materials that I'm going to be doing the finished painting with. The only difference being that my study, I'm going to do the color studies, I'm going to paint them on Bristol board, whereas the painting is on canvas. But the canvases are like these. It's painted across 4 24 by 18 by 24 inch canvases, and they're actually split. If I draw a light line here, they're split. So the composition goes like this across 4 canvases. While we're at it, I mean, it's pretty simple to just make the dragon all of the light. The background, the midtones. And the foreground, the shadow, but I actually should probably put in a little bit of contrast on the dragon, since the dragon is more of the feature of the piece. And I wanted to come in here and darken this in using black. But believe it or not, I cannot find my black Prismacolor. I only have a few of them because for the most part, I don't know, black Prismacolor is not something I use a lot. And I was debating whether just doing an ink wash on this. Like I said, I'm saving the actual paint for when I switch to color studies. This, I'm just trying to work on lights and darks. But in the meantime, this blue is pretty dark. I think it'll do the trick. I wonder, does the screen look a little bit washed out to you guys in terms of how well you can see this with the camera? I had tried getting a new camera, and I could not get it to work. It was a camera with a zoom on it. I did have it able to be above my drawing board, completely above. But one, when I zoomed in, the quality was not what I was hoping. And then for some reason, two, it just stopped connecting to my computer. And so I'm going to send it back, and I'm just going to go back to whenever I'm drawing on my desk doing traditional, I'm just going to put the camera low below my my field of vision so that you guys can kind of just see what I'm doing. Let's see here. Scrolling up, some more comments. You guys are quick. Yeah, Samara says, I feel I'm honoring them by doing this portrait, and it's wonderful that you are doing so. And Kessiel says, I hope that portrait gets good. It's going to be great. You dedicate this. There's things that that work if you do with happiness. And Amar says, so did you see the Harder They Fall yet? No, I have not. I was really torn between watching that and watching Shang-Chi, and I just very much was in a mood for a superhero movie. So I watched Shang-Chi last night instead of watching Harder They Fall. I still need to see it. It's on the list. I know. We've talked about it. Shame on me. And I don't know if actually I was gonna say I was gonna try to watch it before this week's art book study group, which but I'm thinking about what I have to do over the next couple of days, and I still don't think I'm gonna have time to watch it before then. I may not have time to watch it till next weekend. Maybe I'll start watching it when I get on the elliptical and do an exercise and do exercise in the morning before work. Maybe I'll put that on, or at least start watching it this week. Let's see here. Dr. Thomas Elliott says, I started being very lazy lately. How can I get myself to draw? Well, we talked about that at the start of the live stream. Curiosity. What are you curious about right now? What are the things you're actually putting your attention to? I mean, if you're putting your attention towards watching people draw, I mean, yeah, you're watching me draw, but if you're like watching a bunch of videos of artists online, then maybe doing a study of an artist that you're a fan of. I always feel like when I am having trouble, like motivationally, that's another thing. If you own any art books, any comic books, any art of books, anything that you're a fan of, go grab one of those books and sit it out on a table and just flip through it. Put on some music and don't flip through it with a plan or an agenda or a goal. Just enjoy looking at the art. Because I don't know about you guys, for those who have been fortunate enough to attend comic book conventions, for those of you who are able to go to a museum and enjoy going to museums, I have found that consuming art is the number one motivator for creating art. Whenever I go to a museum, I come home with a fire in my belly. When I go to a comic convention, I'll tell you, San Diego Comic-Con is a very big convention. I was fortunate enough to be able to get a professional badge for my work in the toy industry and go as a professional for many years. Over the past few years, I stopped going. And yes, the convention is big and crowded. And yeah, it can be kind of frustrating, just you can't get a hotel. There's a lot of difficult reasons why you might not want to attend San Diego. But for me, it was that whenever I go to San Diego, I go there, I walk around the floor after the first day, I see all the cool stuff, and all I can think is, I should be home creating. I shouldn't be here. I should be home busting my ass so I can make stuff as cool as the stuff I'm seeing here. That's not to say that San Diego is a bad convention. It's saying it's so good, it makes me want to go home and work. So yeah, maybe if you're feeling unmotivated, just enjoy art, because enjoying art will make you want to create more art. Yeah, and back in terms of talking about working on Morningstar, Amar says a decade of labor. Yeah, man, it's been a long, I don't even want to say struggle, because I've enjoyed every minute of it. It's been hard. It's been a hard journey, but it's been a long, beautiful journey. It's been enriching. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about creativity. I continue to push my skills and my craft. And it's funny. The other thing I mentioned in terms of wanting to, I've been real closed-mouthed, and I know people have asked here, what is my next project? I'm still not going to announce it yet because I'm in a research phase, and I really feel like I want my skills to be as tightened up as possible before I start the next series. So I've actually been spending a lot of time. For people on Patreon, you've seen a lot of the posts. I'm taking figure drawing classes. Erase this. The lighting here is not in the position where it should be. Line should actually be kind of dead center in the tail. I've been taking figure drawing classes to try and just bring my skills up as tight as they can be, because when I go do my next series, I'm going to intentionally try to draw in a looser a looser style. And my hope is that having my skills as my fundamentals as sharp as possible before starting means that that looser style, I'm hoping, will still have some of the craft that I get on the page when I'm really, really trying. Because that's my, I don't talk about my own personal fears in art that much. I'm always encouraging you to do stuff even if you're afraid. My big fear is that I am just barely getting close to being able to draw stuff as well as I'd like it to. I still feel like I have a ton to learn, but I'm getting close to that area of, oh, it kind of looks like what I've been struggling to get to. And so to shift gears and say, all right, I'm going to stop worrying so much about making things as good as possible. I'm going to stop worrying about trying to be perfect and just get the story down on the page, which is the advice that I would give any other artist. But doing that when my craft is still not as sharp as I'd like it to be, makes me feel very vulnerable, because I feel like, oh no, if I can't do what I'm setting out to do right now, then it's really going to look bad when I stop trying. So that's the thing that that's my personal struggle with what I have coming next, is how to continue trying to make things look good without getting caught up in perfection. And it's never perfect, but I definitely feel like if you look at volume 2 of Morningstar, even in comparison to volume 1, I feel like you can see visible growth over the years it took to finish the series. And I am always trying to improve. So the question is, what's that going to look like when I'm just saying, all right, I want to go faster? Because my personal experience has been when I try to draw quickly, my skills seem to falter. Things do not look as good as I originally intended them. And that's frustrating for me. So yeah, I have to figure out how I'm going to deal with that. Let's see here. So NMN says, what is the artistic thing you struggle with the most? I think I just mentioned that in terms of well, you did say a technical skill, anatomy, poses, value. For me, it's proportions. Well, you and I are exactly the same. For me, it is proportions. The minute I stop correcting my proportions or really focusing on them, whatever I'm working on starts getting super wonky. It just turns into the last train to Wonksville. And it's just an ongoing struggle that I have. That's actually when I said that I if I don't spend a lot of time trying to fix mistakes and improve, then it gets wonky. Most of what I'm spending my time on, and when I talk about improving over the past few years, most of it is working on proportions, going over my proportions, revising them, catching things part of the way in and just saying, no, that's wrong. In fact, I'm taking a Zoom figure drawing class right now. And during the class, I remember there was a pose I was doing last week where I was drawing it and I blocked in ahead and I was putting in the features. And about 1 minute into the pose, I looked at the features I'd laid down. I said, no, these proportions are wrong. I need to erase this, go back to the basic volume and adjust from there and try to build the proportions up correctly. Let's see here. Mighty Geek says, now you understand why drawing is compared to martial arts. You have developed focus, patience, and passion for the craft. Yeah, it's true. I've always wanted to. I never practiced martial arts as a kid, mostly because I've been running track and field since I was in middle school. And that's eaten up all of my athletic training. But I have a good friend who practiced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for many years. And I slapped on a gi He had one I could borrow, and I went with him to a class one time, and I swear it was the hardest workout I have ever had in my entire life. It kicked my ass. Um, and I think the only reason why I didn't stay up with it is because the dojo he trains at was too far away, and it was too far away from where I live. But I mean, there's lots of great jujitsu dojos all over Los Angeles. For me, it was also the fact that I just didn't feel like I had the time to commit to really training for something like that. It seems like the kind of thing where, yeah, it's your time. Instead of going to the gym, you go to the dojo and you work out, you spar, and you exercise. I think at this time, I'd either just barely started Morningstar, or hell, I might have even no, I think I had definitely been done with Eye of the Gods by then. It was just the fact that I was so incredibly committed to this comic that I didn't feel like I could give the kind of commitment it would take to even casually start doing jujitsu. Because I feel like anything like that, the beginning levels, you can't really be casual about it. You have to get in there and really bust your ass. So I opted not to. But I have a high regard of respect for it. Very, very, very challenging. Let's see here. Natty meant gouache for my color compositions. He said, you mentioned watercolor, so I thought maybe gouache. Yeah, I mean, I could use gouache for the color compositions, but I have the acrylic paints. Why not just paint the composition in acrylic if I'm gonna be doing the final? Because that was the thing that I found was missing. Like I did watercolors before, and watercolors can be transparent. Depending on how you layer them, they can be semi-transparent. You can even really build them up and be opaque. I have found that using acrylic is almost like using acrylic for me is almost like using watercolor. It feels very similar to gouache to me, actually. I've only used gouache once or twice, so it's not that I have anything against using it for this. It's more of the fact that I noticed when I was making the tonal adjustments to the existing canvas and darkening everything down so I can come back and start painting on top of it, I noticed that having it felt like the existing studies I did, I could feel the difference between those studies and being on the canvas working in the exact same medium the final is going to be in. Like, a lot of oil painters will do oil studies. So I thought, why not shift to doing studies using the exact material I'm going to be making the final piece in. So let's see here. I see Johnny's in the chat. Johnny's in the chat. Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for popping in here. Let me scroll back up. A lot of great comments here. Let's see here. Cassiel says, can you do any type of medium to paint with colors? I don't know if you're asking like what mediums I use. I've never used. Oh no, he says you can do with any type of medium to paint with colors. It says experiment and see what you like. Well, for me, I have always liked acrylics. I started using acrylics in college, and I've enjoyed that. For me, when it comes to color, mostly it's digital, but it'll either be acrylics or watercolors. Those are the two that I've enjoyed the most. The reason why I've never really done oils is just because I tend to like to work very, very fast. And I know that there's a lot of oil painters who, instead of working quickly what they'll do is they'll work on multiple pieces at once. So they work on a piece, then let it dry, they'll go move over and work on another piece. They'll just rotate it so that they may have 2 or 3 pieces that they can work on in any given day. And then while 1 or 2 pieces are drying, they just go to whichever one is the driest or ready to keep working on, and they'll go and continue with that. And I think that that's doable. But there's also the fact that to work in oils, I think you really should have proper ventilation. And I don't, I've got a home studio, but it's not like it's a home studio that's in a separate garage or a separate building. It's just it's just one room in the house. I think in order to safely do oils, you need to have a garage set up with proper ventilation. In order to use mineral spirits and turpentine and all of that stuff. And I just don't feel like dealing with it. I'm not saying it's not worth the effort, because oil painting does look beautiful, and it's what the old masters used. So let me be clear when I say that. I'm not saying it's not worth the effort. I'm saying that for what I want to do and how I work, it's just not the right material for me. And also, it's funny. I have colored pencils around. I very rarely use colored pencils for color studies. I use them like for commissions. If I'm at a convention, I want to have be able to knock out some color quickly. Again, watercolor will usually be the go-to. But beyond that, I'll also, use some colored pencils. Let's see here. So AMR mentions the rule of thirds. It's funny when you talk about the rule of thirds. The interesting challenge here is, even though the canvas itself is divided into quarters, because this is actually painted on 4 separate canvases. One of the things I did in the original studies for this is that the dragon's head, originally I was trying to find a way to have the dragon pointed directly at the woman's face. There's a little woman, like, I've got that covered. There's a little woman sitting here in the foreground, and a little bit of scale there. And originally, I had, I think I can move it. The problem is if I move this any closer, I'm not going to be able to see what I'm doing. But I actually realized I could move this down a little bit. Let's see what happens. It may get to the point where I can't see what I'm doing and I have to move it back up. But let's see what happens if I drop this down just a little bit further. That's a little too much. It's like now I'll actually hit the camera with my my pencil. So I don't know. We'll see how this works, because now, like, you don't need to look at me, the little head that's in the side, but me drawing, I have to be like this, looking around the camera now. Oh, I had asked a while ago about whether it looked the camera looked washed out, and Mighty Geek says no, it does not. Dang, Amar is feeling quite musical today. Quoting Tyrese Gibson, shame on me. Let's see here. Yeah. Originally, when the original composition, the head was curling around and just coming over to this side. Because for me, the important thing was that the dragon's head and the woman's head weren't being cropped by the divisions in the 4 canvases. Put that there. So remember, that's where the center where they're broken up. So the point was to try and not put any, like, to put the focal points in those crosshairs. But I found that by trying to have the head looking down, it just didn't really work. It didn't feel as dynamic. So I've given them some more space, but have this now so that the 2 are kind of opposing each other. And that, to me, feels like it's got a lot more life and zest to it. And I like zest. I like zesty artwork. Let's see here. Dr. Dr. Elliott says, I think I drew too much from Jim Lee. I need to buy his Punisher art. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Jim Lee's Punisher run was one of the early comics that I bought, not at a comic shop, but on the newsstand back when local bookstores had like the comic spinner racks. I bought Punisher War Journal. I think Punisher War Journal volume issue 2 was was one of the first superhero comics I ever bought. So yeah, I've got some old ass. I have not all, but I have most of Jim Lee's Punisher run. That's what I was reading him on, I think, before X-Men. So when you say you drew too much, do you mean as in you feel like you need to maybe change it up and get some other influences? The spike should actually be going this way. This tail is actually, his tail is coming off of his body from here and moving backwards in space. So the spikes should be going out that way behind him. He's got some spines on his back. Something I need to work with more is just building strong silhouettes. And I feel like I kind of have a strong silhouette, but I don't have this thing broken up in values the way it should be. That's the other thing is like, this is probably one of multiple value studies I'm going to do. I'm going to draw another one where I'm going to try and just work in terms of silhouette and go light, medium, dark. So I already know that I want the foreground to be dark. And I have the dragon being light. And the background being kind of medium, kind of neutral. But I feel like in terms of value, it's good to experiment and say, well, what happens if I make, I know that I don't want the dragon to be dark, but what happens if I switch this and I make the background bright and the dragon neutral? I think that this piece is supposed to be a low-key piece. So, I mean, for me personally, I think dark compositions really pop. So for me, it would be really easy to make everything dark and make the foreground light. But this is going to be a piece of home decor. And it's an interesting challenge to paint it to my wife's aesthetics, because it's like having a client who likes what you do, but wants something that fits their needs. And my wife definitely has a brighter aesthetic. She has some sci-fi and pop culture art that she has bought herself. There's like, we have like a Catwoman print that's hanging in our bathroom. It's Catwoman with all these really cute, goofy cats. It's got like these bright, bubbly colors, almost an anime looking feel to it. And that's the kind of thing that I think looks cool in our house. It's just not the style that I tend to paint. So it's a challenge for me, a good challenge, to try and work in a different value key as opposed to the dark, gloomy, like H.R. Giger tends to be more of my aesthetic. Everything is like dark and gray and moody. Let's see here. NMN says, my motivator is an insatiable feeling I have when I have an image or a conception in my head. I must get it out or I'm going to go crazy. I feel like hungry and there's a sandwich, but it's just barely out of reach. Well, hey, I always say when you get that motivator, you lean into it. It's funny, talking about hunger. Amar says, about to make a smoothie while watching. I bet the smoothie's done by now because I'm taking my time getting through all these comments. That was like more like 20 minutes ago. Let's see here. It says, I got the second job yesterday, been a bit drowsy. My arm is not as sore as last time. Not yet. Well, don't wear yourself into the ground. And Negro Frazetta says, is that Messiah Warrior female sketch you posted on Patreon in the new comic book? No, she's not actually. I just was sketching it for fun. Believe it or not, as much as I obsess about being productive and trying to do something with everything I'm doing, or I'm doing studies, sometimes I do sit down and just draw stuff just to say, let me have some fun with this. So yeah, that doesn't mean that she might not find her way into a comic book at some point. But as it stands, no, I didn't draw her. There's this female warrior, with Messiah warrior, with a bunch of face paintings and markings. And it was just something, I think I just saw a bit of reference that someone else posted, and it made me want to draw a female warrior character. But no, she's not going to be in the new comic. And eventually, I hope that I will at least announce the new comic before the end of the year. But what I really want to do is get some concept artwork for it done. And surprise, I will share what I'm working on for the new comic with the Patreon subscribers. So you guys will get to see that stuff before everyone else. But I'm going to wait a while before I make my public announcement in terms of what's going on next. NM says, wow, I had that tool too. I was always unsatisfied with my art until recently. Something happened. I found out that my style, 18 out of 20 drawings I'm satisfied with. Yeah, 18 out of 20 drawings is really, that's a really high level. Mine is probably maybe 50-50. So it's funny that I talk about the perfectionism, because it's something that Amar and I have talked about a lot, about, don't be a perfectionist. It's going to slow you down. Get the thing out there. And I completely agree with it. It's the advice I give to other people. I think for me, it's that I look at something and it's not about trying to make it perfect. It's about, is this my best effort? And if I look at it and I'm like, if I made the piece and it just did not come out well, I'd be like, okay, it didn't come out well. It is what it is, move on. But if I look at the piece and I ask myself, am I capable of doing better, but I just didn't? That's when I am compelled to go back and draw it again. And that's the thing that I have trouble with, is that a lot of times I see a piece, I finish the piece, and I know in my mind, it's not just, oh, I'm unsatisfied. It's, I can do better, I just didn't. And then the question is, well, why didn't I? And I go down, it's a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of looking at it and just analyzing my work and saying, okay, let me fix the proportions. Are the values good? Does this thing have a nice line of action in it? And just reworking it until it really feels as good as I would like it to be. Let's see here. NMN says, bros, I would draw huge heads for many years, partially unaware of it, until one guy in a forum brutally brought my attention. It was an eye-opening. From then on, I embraced criticism wholeheartedly. Or it says whole heart, but I know what you meant. For me, part of it is that I've been taking figure drawing classes for a number of years. And that's one of the reasons why I actually encourage classes for both students and for professionals. When I say students, I mean people still learning. Not necessarily involved in being enrolled in university. But if you're just in a learning phase, for me, I feel like figure drawing classes force you to confront your work. And usually the instructor will give you criticisms and say, this is wrong, change this, change that. And they're not being mean. They're just showing you, these are the things you can do to make your work better. And that has made a huge difference, because having an instructor criticize my work on an ongoing basis has taught me how to properly criticize my own work. And that's something I try to stay on top of. It's just assessing what's wrong, what's right, where can I adjust stuff. Mighty Geek in the chat says, remember the first rule of art perfection is not the goal, it's about the interpretation. You will hone your skills as you work. Very true, and it's a lesson that I often forget. I need to keep that in mind. Let's see. Johnny, I feel for you. Johnny says, having a rough mental health week right now, but I hope you and everyone else are okay. It's going around. We've got, members of our community have lost people. again, art is sometimes it can be a refuge against all of the difficulties and realities of life. Um, Work struggles, struggles with family, loss, all these things that are a part of everyday real life. Art for me has always been kind of a place to run and hide from. I've got other friends who are having family members with health issues, and I remember I was chatting with a friend, texting. It told me, dude, things have been nuts. All I want to do is just be able to sit down and draw for a couple of days and relax. And I told him I understand that. I mean, making art is what keeps us from going squirrely. But also that's challenging when we've also talked about it here, even with you, Johnny. We've talked about the idea that sometimes the act of making art itself can be stressful. And that's why I always try to tell people, to remember, to lean into the joyful side of it and making stuff because it makes you happy, because we don't want to lose that joy. That's something that I actually learned in college. I used to run track and field in college, and I went from high school where it was all fun and games to when I was in college, I was on athletic scholarship, and the big challenge was that it was always on my mind that I was paying for my education as an athlete, and I felt like if I didn't perform, I would lose my scholarship. That means I wouldn't be able to, because I certainly couldn't have afforded college, or at least not the school I went to, if I wasn't on athletic scholarship. And that stress about athletics feeling like a job now made competing at a collegiate level, which is already pretty stressful, it took all of the joy away. And I honestly feel like I didn't perform as well up to the expectations when I was recruited as I should have. And a lot of that I think is because of that self-imposed stress. Because, the coach never yelled at me. You know, it's not like they were saying you better get this right or we're gonna kick out we're booting you off the team. You better, it was always a very encouraging. It was a tough environment, but it was still a nurturing environment. My coach, my teammates, everything. All the pressure that I felt was self-imposed, and I think that that's one thing I realized when I'm going forward in terms of making artwork, that I can't let that happen with my art. Is I can't let the pressure take away the joy. Um, so that's kind of an important thing to remember. But regardless, Johnny, if you can today or this week as much as possible, try to spend some time doing things that you really enjoy. Maybe a half hour a day, 20 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be art. If you just enjoy reading, or if there's a favorite TV show that you like, or a game that you play, or biking, or getting some exercise, try and just, if you can carve out, a half hour a day at least to do something that genuinely feeds your soul, that nurtures your soul. It'll be good for you as a human being, whether it's good for your art or not. And I have to believe that it would be, but no matter what, try to find some joy, a little bit of joy every day. If that's one thing I can encourage all of you to do, is try to touch, touch an experience in life that generally makes you happy to be alive. If you can just have a little slice of that every day, will keep you going through all of the hard shit in life. Let's see here. NM says, I once got a heck of a headache from using terps and oils in a closed room back at art school. Learned the hard way. See, yeah, I already knew that. I knew that, what, and that's a funny thing. I'm thinking about it now in college. I don't think that in our studios that we had, I went to a fine art college. I think they may have had a room that had ventilation, but in the main art student studios, I don't think they were ventilated so that we could use oils. That was another reason why we used acrylics in college, was because I think just as a safety measure, they weren't allowing students to use oils in the class, because we had a shared studio space and they wanted everyone to be able to come in and work. And you can't do that. Some people can't stand the fumes. And yeah, so another reason why I was nursed on acrylics. But I think I would have gone that direction regardless. Let's see here. Garu says, looks amazing. Thank you very much. That's kind of you to say. I greatly appreciate it. And Enaman says, do you watch Gary Vee? Says he's making himself a snack at midnight. I don't watch Gary Vee's. He's talking about Gary Vaynerchuk. He is a wine entrepreneur turned into media marketing business entrepreneur in many different industries. So obviously I'm familiar with who he's talking about. And I do like Gary Vee. I used to listen to Gary Vee's podcast. I think it was just called the Gary Vaynerchuk Show, or it was just called the Gary Vee Show. And at a certain point, even he would say this, is that, look, I'm giving you the same advice over and over again. Bust your ass, find the thing that you're passionate about, find the people that are fans of that, and let them know, and always just be so good that the people that like the type of thing you want can't resist it. He's given the same advice over and over again. So I stopped listening at a certain point, not because I dislike him and not because I don't agree with him, but just because I'm like, I got the message. Let me just get to work. Occasionally, like if he has like a keynote speech or something, or if I see an interesting article about him, I'll check it out because I believe in what he's teaching and I believe in his message. I just don't follow him closely. But I'm curious why you ask. Because again, I think Gary Vaynerchuk, he's definitely pro creatives and pro independent, artists, independent business persons. He's pro independence. And I think that that's very good for us as creatives. I'm curious where you came across him. And let's see here. I see my boy Trevor's in the chat. Skulls, you're just catching a bit of the show before work. Dude, thanks for popping in. Good to see you. He corrected that right afterwards. He said skull, fat fingers. I knew what you meant, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. You know what? Oh, Amar says, in terms of Gary Vee, he says familiar with him, but I don't really watch him. Dude, you should check Gary Vee out, because you, with the energy and drive that you have, the focus and intensity that you have, and that other YouTube channel that you had posted in the Discord about the Great Resignation, that type of energy and focus and drive and controlling your own destiny, that's what Gary Vee has. Except imagine if the dude who in that Great Resignation video that you posted, imagine if that guy said, I'm going to resign and build my own empire. Instead of just, I'm going to resign and just work the gig life and not be stressed out. Instead, just said, I'm going to build an empire that rules the world. That's how Gary Vee is. And some people can think that he's a little bit brash. I mean, that's just kind of the New Yorker kind of feel. Like, I actually feel like he speaks very directly and passionately. And I think sometimes people mistake his passion for him being kind of like a bro-y dude. And I really don't think that he is. I actually think he's actually extremely emotional intelligence. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but just the idea of being able to connect with people, to hear and understand, to figure out what they need and how to communicate with them. Gary Vee values that very highly, and I think it's something that he excels at. But he's very much a straight shooter, and sometimes people will take someone being super direct for being a dick, and he is not. But I think you specifically, I highly recommend you look him up online. In fact, I don't have time to do it while we're here, but I'm going to find, there's an old, when I first heard about him, almost 10 years old, there's a Web 2.0 keynote speech that he gave that I still go back to this day. Like every couple of years, I'll check it out because it's just so inspiring. Because he just talks about all of the tools that we as creative people have now that artists have not had for years. And he's like, why are you not out building the thing? He's like, go rule the world. You have opportunities that artists have never had before in history. And he's like, there's no reason for you to be miserable. There's no reason to work a crappy job and not be fulfilled. He's like, go build the thing. He's like, stop watching, crappy TV and just wasting time. He's like, go kick some ass. So I'm gonna find that video and I'm gonna post that for you, Amar, because I think that that video is what turned me into a Gary Vee fan. You know what? I'll have it when I have a chance. When I post on the Discord, I'm gonna come back to the description in this video, and I'm gonna put a link to that Gary Vee keynote speech. I'm gonna put that in there as well. So you guys watching here, if you come back and check after the live stream, check the description. I'll put that video link in there as well. So let's see here. NMN says, I'm about to make myself a midnight snack. It's funny. I actually have not had, I've got like a protein bar that's like 2/3 finished here because like I woke up, got my stuff ready for the live stream, and then just dove in, like made myself some coffee. So most of the live streams we have here, I haven't had any breakfast yet, which a lot of people don't eat breakfast. So, I mean, that's fine. Usually I just have a protein bar and some coffee and then live stream with you and then have lunch afterwards. Let me get caught up on the comments because we're a little bit past an hour. So we're probably at the point to start winding down. I'm not winding down immediately, but I do want to mention, because I forgot to mention, Art Book Study Group. So for those of you who are not patron subscribers, well, for those who are patron subscribers, this week is another Art Book Study Group week. So this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. For those who are not Patreon subscribers, Art Book Study Group, and I need to post maybe an episode, just bring it out from behind the unlisted videos and make it public so you guys can see what we do. But it's basically sitting down, and instead of just sitting here and sketching, making art, I'm sitting down with an art book, an educational art book, and I'm doing studies from it, and just trying to learn and improve my craft. So, it's just me sharing my process of how I try to improve as an artist, as a creative, as an illustrator. And we've been doing for many months, we've been doing Walt Reed's The Figure. That's the book that I've been working from. We've been working from. Although, like, again, everybody works on something different. Like, I know Nico Frazetta has spent some time doing a lot of animal studies during it. He's also been studying a lot of George Bridgman. We also did a few videos on George Bridgman. We haven't finished Bridgman's complete guide to drawing from life, but after we finish Walt Reed's The Figure, we're going to come back to that book. Anyway, that's what we were talking about, and we will be doing that this Wednesday. So if you're not a patron and you want to check it out, for as little as $2 a month, you can become a subscriber. Hell, you can subscribe for 1 month, hop on and watch all of the backlists. Because when you go on the Patreon, on the homepage, it has a link for all the Art Book Study Group videos, like under the tags. You can go in and just watch a bunch of them and see if it's something that you feel is worthwhile and enjoy. You can, you don't have to stay on. You can subscribe for just 1 month, check it out, and say, it's not for me. And that's fine. No harm, no foul. But I encourage you to hop on and actually check some of those out. But like I said, I just wanted to mention right now that we're doing another one this Wednesday because I do them every other week. So alternating Wednesdays. Let's see here. Amar says, yes, I'm done with the smoothie. It's a bit thicker than I want. I'll just say it's more ice cream than smoothie. Strawberries, blueberries, ginger, peanut butter, and pineapple. You know what? All of that sounds delicious. I actually don't put any ice cream in my smoothies. I make smoothies. What I do is actually today, on Sundays, I make smoothies for the whole week and then put them in the fridge and then just have them for breakfast throughout the week. But my smoothies, I cut them down to, it's just berries, spinach, ginger, some wheatgrass, and cinnamon. And I used to have it where it also had pineapple and banana, but I am pre-diabetic. I have high blood sugar, but not to the point where I would need to be on medication. And at a certain point, I realized, I'm drinking these smoothies 5 days a week. Maybe I should cut out some of the sugar. And the berries, the bananas, the pineapple has a ton of sugar. Bananas have a lot of sugar, but the berries are relatively, in terms of fruit, lower in terms of their glycemic index. So I decided to cut it down to just berries and spinach. So it's not a particularly sweet smoothie. It's not bitter either, but I've gotten used to the taste. All right, I left that up. I left the ingredients up on the screen so I could look at the ingredients that Amar mentioned and compare that. All right, so now I'm just coming in here. So what I'm doing with this is I'm trying to see how it looks if I cut this down to where the background is the really light part, and then the figure. So this is actually kind of, it's not too different from what's above, except I've got him being more of the highlight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna make two different versions of this silhouette. Two different versions of this. I'm gonna draw another piece next to it where it's the same. The foreground is always gonna be black. But I'm gonna try doing a version where the figure is all white and the background is gray, which is actually pretty similar to what I did in this original one. But this is just me trying to look out on a pure value level and try to, I guess, just assess where I want to refine the levels and push them, basically to try and really make a strong silhouette. Just deciding, do I want to push the white values into the, do I want to push the light values in the background and lighten it up even more and then have that light kind of spill over into the dragon? Or do I want to push the white values really into the dragon and then just have the background be slightly lower key, foreground being the lowest key? So it really will, the whole thing is just, I'm trying to brighten up the whole composition. So this is one of the things where I'm thinking I'm not even thinking about the drawing. I'm thinking about composition and value, just where are my big areas of light and dark. So, and to be honest, this thumbnail that I'm doing here, I should have done these thumbnails before drawing this. And that happens for me a lot of the time. Like I said, I'm going now and doing work that I should have done when I started this painting originally. Sometimes I'll do a value study like this and then realize, oh, I need to do a couple of value studies like this and then do another one like this, informed by what I learned by doing these small ones. So sometimes just making a piece, and this is the reason when we get into perfection, it's not necessarily perfectionism. It's that I will do the piece, and in doing it, I learn mistakes. I learn from every single drawing I do, and it makes me say, all right, well, let me take a step back and correct the things that I should have done, and then see what happens if I try to do this. And that is what, to me, I talk about it as perfectionism, but it doesn't, that's the thing. It's not really fair to call it perfectionism because it's the working process. It's the way of working through problems. So it's more that I have a tedious method for working through problems, and I don't really think of it as perfectionism. But I've talked to many friends who look at how many thumbnails I do, how many studies, the way that I tweak and change pieces, and they're like, dude, just sit down and make the thing. And they're right. They're right. I should just sit down and make the thing. But at the same time, doing the work, doing the reference, doing the research, doing the thumbnails is what, to me, produces the better results. And I think if you struggle with pieces and you're not happy with your work, doing an extra round of thumbnails can make the difference. All right, so now we're at about an hour 20. I'm just going to go through and address any last comments in the chat, and then we're going to pack it in for the day. But I will post more thumbnails and the work that I do here. So let's see. Amar says, self-doubt, comparing and perfectionism can kill dreams. Word. In talking about Amar's smoothie, Animan says, sounds like a low-carb diet, and Amar says, it is good, though. Animan says, I'm just gonna start calling you N because I can't keep going back and forth. My tongue is going to trip over it. I have a lazy tongue. And to be honest, talking while drawing while reading is using all of my central processing. So having to pronounce things that are difficult to pronounce just it breaks me. And it's not that it's difficult. It's just it's like a tongue twister. But N says, holy smoking shark on a stick. I need to take up figure drawing classes to get criticism. I do a figure sketch daily unless I pass out, but I was wondering, where do I get criticism? Thanks for the tip. Well, if you want, like, I think I mentioned this when when we talked in terms of email. If you want, you can send a couple of figure sketches to that email address on my my website on jeremy.net. You just go in there. You know what? Oh, that's what I need to do. I think I replied to you. So when you go on there, there's a email contact box. You can send a message through my website. When I get that message, I'll reply back to you, and then you'll have just the regular email address. You can just forward me. You can either forward me artwork, or like you said, if you have a DeviantArt or a place where you post your work online, send me a link to that. It's actually better for you to send me a link than it is for you to actually email me artwork. Just send me a link to a couple of pages, and what we'll do is, if you're comfortable with me doing it on the live stream, I'll bring up a couple of them, and either I'll bring it up on my iPad and draw over it digitally, or I'll print it out and put some vellum on top and draw over it. But we can just go through, and I'll give you some. I feel like draw overs are a better form of criticism than just saying, do this, do that, do that. Because then I look at it, and I think you being able to physically see the correcting of the mistake and seeing how it looks in comparison is a big difference. So I'm gonna try that. If you're comfortable for it, then we can do that anytime that you're comfortable. It doesn't have to be next week, but just hit me up sometime and say, hey, I'd like to do this sometime. So it could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of months. Just send me a link and say, would you mind doing a draw over on the live stream? And yeah, and we'll do it. Let's see here. Amar says, true, art has been my form of escapism for many decades. See, this is how slow I am at getting through the comments, because I know that this was almost an hour ago. I must have said that. I said, even when the art is bad, it's still relaxing. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that figure drawing is one of the things that when I am stressed out and I actually, for some reason, I can't focus. Let's say that I'm working on a graphic novel or I'm working on a particularly detailed thing art-wise. I will sit down and I'll just do, like, for me, sitting down and just doing studies from an art book or taking my figure drawing work from class and redrawing my classwork and making corrections, I find that as an activity very, very soothing, very mentally relaxing. Yeah, just the act of making marks on paper. In fact, this is something my wife has went to, like one of those things where a wine and paint session where, women will get together. Not women. I mean, women tend to do it, but anyone can do it. Groups of guys, groups of non-binary folk, what have you. Anyone can just go, and the wine and paint thing, where you go to a studio where they serve it up like a wine and cheese brunch thing, and you hang out, they have canvases and they paint. And my wife made a painting. We've got it. It's a really beautiful painting that's hanging in our library. But I actually had a paint party with some friends one time where the whole joke was that I always want to make art. And even to the point when I was single, I would be out with my buddies and they had to start forcing me to leave my sketchbook at home. So I'd come to the bar with my sketchbook, and it'd be like this. Imagine if all of us here were sitting drinking while we're doing this. That's what it would be. It'd be like me just hanging out and having a conversation with you guys like I'm doing here, but I'm drinking while we're doing it, and I'm doing it at a bar. So the other problem is that it's dim light, so it really makes it hard to see what I'm doing. But at a certain point, they were like, dude, leave the sketchbook at home. Just hang out and be present. That's a tangent. What I meant to say was, because I know there are people who watch the live stream who aren't necessarily artists. Maybe they're writers, maybe they're creatives, maybe they just enjoy hearing about the process of creatives. Whether you consider yourself an artist or not, get like a small, cheap canvas. Like I think, let me see if that's it. Oh, I think they sell these for like a pack of $10 for like a pack of 5 or 6. This is like a small. Hang on, I have to go to the big screen because I can't show you. I don't want to move the camera. But yeah, so you can see how big this is next to my head. It is smaller than my head. Now, true, my head is ginormous, but the canvas is smaller than my head. I think this is a 6x6 panel. So it's a 6-inch by 6-inch panel. You get a bunch of these for like $10. Get like a basic, like a cheap $10 set of like acrylic paints that just has like a primary color set. It'd be like $10 or $12 for like a small tube with like, red, green, yellow, blue, purple, orange, black and white. You can get like a really cheap set for maybe $12, but as little as like $8 or $10 at your local Michael's or just some other art supply store. Squirt some paint out on a palette and just smear paint around on the canvas. And I tell you this because there is something as somebody who, a professional artist, even though, I tell you that my main work is graphic design. As a professional artist, I tell you that art has become too much just the realm of the professional. Like making a clear-cut line between this professional artist and there's everybody else. And if you aren't a professional artist, then don't do it because you're gonna suck. And the truth is art is for everyone. Whether you make art for a living or make art for a living, maybe you make a living from it or you do it for a living, art is for everyone. And whether you consider yourself an artist or not, get a canvas and just smear some paint around on it, and you will find that it is one of the most soothing activities in existence. I can't tell you why, but it is gratifying to the soul. And you may not make something that's any good. You may not make something that you want to look at, but you also may make something you're just like, I don't even know what this is, but this is pretty and I like the colors. Or you may make something you're like, wow, that actually is somewhat representative and it looks kind of like what I was trying to make. Whether you're trying to actively make something or whether you're just smearing colors on the canvas, just give it a try. I think you'll be surprised how soothing and relaxing it is. Let's see here. Yes, Anne says, struggle and pain in art, in my opinion, is nothing to what materialistic life can do to you. Jobs, money, issue, health. So embrace art wholeheartedly with its light and dark side. Yes, it says, when I was a teen, not being able to draw like I wanted seemed like the end of the world. Now it seems like sweet memories. Yeah, I think that that's an important factor or an important distinction. I very much try to improve, and it is challenging. But a challenge is not the same as beating yourself up. I think that, having a challenge, when someone runs a marathon or they go to the gym, just going to the gym is challenging. But it doesn't mean you should make yourself miserable. And that's the thing to lean into is, yeah, there's stuff about it that is difficult, but there's lots of things that are difficult but fun. Okay, let's look at salsa dancing. Salsa dancing is fun. I've taken a salsa dancing class. People that are competitive salsa dancers work their ass off and they train and bust their ass. But they're still doing something that they love. And even when you take just a class, not for competitive dancing, just taking a class I did a long time ago. Yeah, it was hard and I couldn't get the steps right. And because I'm tall, my legs are really long. So I would always overstep when the whole point of salsa is that it's very small, precise steps. And it's very, delicate. It's not big arcing movements, which is how my body tends to move. I lope like an antelope. I have these big loping steps. It was hard, but it was fun. And that's the thing. For art, yeah, there's things about it when you're trying to improve, there's things that are fun and challenging. But when you're just making art for fun, just make art for fun. And when it's challenging, look at it. There's a difference between challenge and struggle. And I think that we should lean into the challenge and lean away from the struggle. Struggle is something that drains the soul. Challenge strengthens the soul. I'm gonna write that down. I think that's gonna be the title of the video. All right. So let me see here. Last couple of comments there. Oh yeah, Negro Frazetta. So again, like I said, I'm sorry I'm taking me so long to get to the to get through all of the comments. But yeah, next art book study group this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be doing that. And I know I've mentioned doing a midweek live stream last week. Our guests potential guests had to reschedule. So we're tentatively scheduled for this Thursday. But again, in case something comes up, I'm not going to post that video. I'm not going to post a link in advance. So I'm going to wait until we're definitely confirmed. So maybe like a day or two before, I'll post it. And I'll make a community post. So if you're subscribed to my channel, it should show up in your post somewhere that I'm going to be doing a live stream on Thursday. So hopefully you guys can catch it. And if not, I'll try to remember to remind you next week that there's an extra live stream for you guys to check out. All right, let's see here. That's right, I have to remember the Gary Vee thing. I'm gonna forget that. I have to keep like a notepad next to me to remember things to add to the description. Let's see here. Yeah, Amar said on terms of Gary Vee, I saw him was more of an influencer and he does have high energy. Let's see here. Says, I got a cheap arm for my drawing monitor. It will take some getting used to. It's funny. I have a small drawing tablet. It's not big. I mean, I could put it on an arm, but it's like a 12-inch Cintiq. To be honest, I much greater prefer drawing on the iPad, but that's because I have a larger iPad. So that makes it, easier for me to, and even that, I could put on a drawing arm. What's weird is I never show you guys this. You guys don't, normally get to see it. But when I'm drawing on my drawing, the way that this is set up is so I'm on a drawing table that isn't flat. The drawing table is angled like this. It's like it's raised somewhat. And actually, I used to raise it up even more, but it kind of broke. There's a part of it that snaps, so I can't raise it up as high as I used to. But I actually like having it. I wouldn't be able to have my laptop here if it was at the angle I'd like. But when I'm at my drawing table, what I usually do is I have a small drawing board. This is what is this, 12 by 18? Well, hell, I can just measure it. I've got a ruler. Now, $14 and a half by 16. So I couldn't even put a sheet of 11 by 17 on here. I couldn't do comics on this thing. But I originally got this thing for going to like small figure drawing sessions when I didn't want to carry my big boy, my 18 by my 18 by 24 drawing pad or drawing board. See, that's how crazy I am. I've got a drawing table. I've got multiple drawing boards, all this stuff. But anyway, on my drawing board, what I do is I sit. There's some binder clips that I put on here. The reason why I put some binder clips, there's a clip to clip paper to. I put binder clips on it to make a little shelf. On the shelf, I rest my iPad. And then I have where is it? I've got a yoga block. I put the yoga block on my desk and I put the block on it. I lean the board on it because if I put the board on the table, it just sits, at a lower angle. And I actually really prefer, like I mentioned, I used to have my drawing table higher up. I like to draw at like an angle where I don't need it perfectly vertical like I'm working on an easel, but I like to have it up higher so I'm have it more facing me. Like I try to be like it's almost parallel to my head angle. So I'm not getting any visual distortion by having it tilted away from me. So I put a yoga block on the desk and I have this board sitting on top angled up at a high angle. So you guys never get to see that. But whenever I'm drawing on my tablet, whenever I'm drawing on the iPad, when I'm on the live stream, literally this drawing board is like just below the screen. It's sitting on the table like right here. You guys usually don't see. I'm not like trying to hide it. It's more like I'm trying to angle it so I'm not blocking my face during the live stream. But behind the scenes, just showing you some of the behind the curtain, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. All right. Let's get down to the last couple of comments and wrap this up here. That just Amar talking about his drawing arm made me think of that. N says, "Holy shards! Walt Reed, the figure, has some awesome figures. Simplifications of the human body is always helpful." Yeah, for a long time, I used to my go-tos were George Bridgman and Andrew Loomis. But I feel like Walt Reed really gives a great. He tries to make the figure as simple as possible, and next to the simplifications that I've learned from Carl Ganas taking these figure drawing classes, like Walt Reed's The Figure to me feel like it is one of the most phenomenally fundamental ways of just breaking the human figure down to something super simple. So I'm glad that you discovered it and check it out. Again, I've got tons of videos that we've been doing of working our way through the book. We're still like less than halfway through the book. We're only like page 50 something, and it's like a 200-page book. But back to the smoothie talk. Amar says, "That's what I forgot to put in was the banana." I don't know why it's amusing to me to have these callbacks to stuff that we were talking about like 45 minutes ago. But he says, "Now I have to eat so I have to eat the banana now. It usually lasts me most of the week." Well, what you can do, crazy as it sounds, is eat the banana with the smoothie. So that way you can take a bite and then take a sip and you get to mix the flavors. Like sucking on a lime after you take a shot of tequila. Let's see here. And M says, "Time flies when you're having fun. That's why these streams blaze past so quickly." You know what? It is true, guys. It's hanging out with you guys and talking while I'm making stuff. We talk about that, about how lonely. And I mean, art is both a refuge, but it can be isolating in that when you're at the drawing table, you're kind of alone. I mean, I encourage you guys. In addition to hanging out with me and drawing, whenever you're able to get together with fellow artists and draw in person, just hang out and BS, that's great. I mean, obviously the pandemic has spoiled that for a lot of folks, but I still get to hang out with artists virtually through Zoom when I do my figure drawing class. I mean, if you have a group of artists that are all, vaccinated or get tested regularly and you feel like it's a safe, comfortable environment, either reach out to friends you haven't seen in a while who draw, or maybe you start like reaching out on Facebook or on social media and say, "Hey, I'm interested in starting a drawing group in my area." I mean, again, I think there's a lot of people who for health concerns, people who have compromised immune systems or have family members with compromised immune systems. Maybe you are still real hesitant to do social gatherings. I agree with that. I myself am still not going to be doing any comic conventions until sometime next year. But I do encourage. But when you feel safe, I encourage you to look at either finding a group of people who hang out in person or starting your own group. And it's really not that scary. It's just, if you put out an email online and you just say, hey, people, I'm looking at getting a group of artists to hang out. If you can get just one person to show up with you and hang out, then it starts growing. Like, in fact, I'll tell you, my previous art director I used to work with, or my previous design director at my job, he's moved on to another company, a great guy. But when he first started at the job, I used to hang out in the lunchroom, and the lunchroom was empty all the time. And I would hang out there and just work on my art during lunch and put on a podcast, just hang out and draw. And he saw that I was doing that. And he started joining me, and then other artists started coming out and sketching. And it got to the point where my department got banned for hanging out in the lunchroom because we were making too much noise in there. It just grew. So, if you just meet with a fellow artist at a coffee shop and it's just you and that artist, when you're done, you post a couple of your sketches on social media and say, hey, we had a great time. We're meeting next month, or we're meeting next week, however often you meet. Invite more people and say, hey, let's do this again. That's how our Coffee and Comics group got started. Carl Altstetter just put out a call to some creatives. He's my boy, so I definitely wanted to hang out. We just started growing, like more and more people started joining. You'd be surprised how quickly it can grow, and I was surprised at how many in IRL friends I've developed just by meeting up with other artists in person, just hang out and getting to know each other. So I encourage you to look at that at some point in the future as well. And also that whole thing about getting feedback and criticism from artists. That's really great. When you have somebody, hang on, before I read this comment, when you have somebody in person giving you feedback, I think part of it is that you can sense when they say, hey, maybe you want to try this, maybe you want to try that. You don't feel that threatening. When you're just getting feedback on the internet, you don't get the tone of the person. I don't mean like having someone talking to you, but I mean when you just post on a board and someone comments back, you can't tell whether they're being a jerk, or they might mean something completely innocently, but you might take it the wrong way, or they may say something and it might be a jerk and you might not necessarily pick up on it. Point being is that when you're talking to someone in person, you can sense how they're telling you something. And when someone is telling you something that maybe is critical and it's hard for you to do, and it might be hard to hear, but when you can hear the compassion in their voice, or the fact that they're not attacking you, they're just saying, look, if you want it to be better, you need to do this, this, and that, and you're not doing it. And when you hear that someone is saying it with a compassionate tone, they're just trying to show you the way and they're trying to help you, it makes criticism that much easier to take. Let's see here. Johnny Fitz says, I'm going to head out. Again, sorry it took me so long to get to this. He says, is there a way I can email you? It would mean a lot to me. Thanks. Yes. If you go to jeremy.net, GERIMI.net, there's links in the description to this video. And, I just gave you the link right there. If you go and check that out, there's a contact page on that website. You can send me an email from there, and yeah. So yeah, please definitely shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. N says, I was going to prepare a portfolio to send you for reviews, but I have a messy DeviantArt. Once I find the courage, I'll send you the link. And thank you so much for your help. You're very, very welcome. I'd be happy to do it, and we'll do it here on the stream. Amar says, I have a 22-inch monitor. Anything 15 to 16 inches is too small for my eyes. I hear you. I've been lucky so far, knock on wood, but my eyes are aging too. I've got fortunately, I mean, I had LASIK years ago, and it has improved my vision to the point where I really need glasses to watch TV from across the room, and I need glasses to drive. But just walking around the house and making art, I can still see pretty well. So, well, that gets along. All right, guys. Looks like we are caught up here on all the comments. Amar says, thanks for the stream. Talking about getting together with artists. He says, I remember those from college when I was doing fine art. Guys, this has been fantastic. You guys are wonderful as always. I appreciate you. Again, Amaris, I hope that you, condolences again for your loss. Stay strong. Be be there for your friends and your family. We feel for you. Everyone else, I appreciate the condolences you shared with her. God, you guys are awesome. That's the main thing. I just, when I started this YouTube channel, I didn't think I would have people that I would just meet with on a regular weekly basis and when I started live streaming, just being able to talk with you guys and having an ongoing group of art friends I have online. So yeah, you guys are really amazing. I'm not gonna get all choked up here. Let's close it out. Again, Patreon subscribers, if you'd like to support this channel for as little as $2 a month, if you'd like to join in on this week's art book study group, that'll be and by the way, I forgot to mention, when we do the art book study group, I open a voice channel on the Discord, so we can actually be talking back and forth while we're drawing, not just chatting, but actually having people on. I get a little excited talking with my hands. We can actually be on and talk while we're drawing. So you can get into the art book study group and watch all of the old episodes on patreon.com/Jeremy. I'm going to try and go through and pick an episode to make public sometime this week, an existing episode, just so you guys can check it out. You can also read all my comic books for free on there. Patreon.com/GERIMI. Sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. You will get a free digital sketchbook. And then once a month, I will send you work in progress animated GIFs, updates in terms of my creative progress, what I'm working on, what I'm reading and watching, my art media diet, all of that and more. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comics, like I said, Morningstar Volume 2 now in print. Woot! Let's see here. Where's all the other stuff? Oh. My first book, Eye of the Gods, psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. Morningstar, Volume 1, Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. Volume 2, now available. Doesn't have this little banner on the front that says not for resale because it's a proof. Also, now available in print. I'm really happy with how this book came out. Took a lot of futzing and fussing around. Like I said, I'm going to try and do an actual flip through so you guys can properly see all of the pages in the book. Check everything out. There will be a little bit of I'm going to make that video an 18 and over video because there is some nudity. It's not anything that's like a Tim Vigil Faust comic, and I love Tim Vigil. That's no shade. But, there is some adult content in it, so I figured just be on the safe side. There's boobs, and apparently some people are afraid and threatened by breasts. I don't know why. They're natural. They're beautiful. You can see Greek statues in museums with naked figures. Hell, you can see statues with just their little, with men's junk hanging out in museums. Have you looked at Michelangelo's David? He's butt booty naked. All right. So guys, thank you again for all the great comments, all the great conversation. Really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Be well, be healthy, find a little bit of joy every day. That's it for now. Thank you again. Go be creative.